If you don't know, I have another YouTube channel, youtube.com/Quill18Creates, where I do game programming tutorials, primarily in Unity 3D. Well, in Unity, sometimes it's 2D, sometimes it's 3D. But yeah, so if you ever want to learn how to make computer games, you could go over to youtube.com/Quill18Creates, and there's a Patreon-funded project over there, and one of the things that comes up with it is a monthly live stream. And because I sort of pre-record some episodes in chunks, and I'm not guaranteed to be in sync with the YouTube tutorials, and I still want to make tutorials outside of what we're covering just in that game, which is a base building game, sort of like a RimWorld-y kind of thing, but in space. In the Saturday streams, I take some of the questions that people have asked me about various games, and I try to do tutorials that address those things. Last month, we did hex-based tiles. And here we're going to do a tower defense game. Now, the tower defense game is actually really simple to program. It's mostly a question of design. And, you know, graphics and adding that sort of stuff. The actual programming for it should be relatively simple. So I'm setting up a challenge for myself that in 1 hour, we're going to make a tower defense game. What I have done is I have prepped a project here with a couple of graphics to work with. That was like the only thing I did as a preliminary work. I made just a little bit of a map. So I went into Photoshop and I used the spray paint tool and went shh, done. And then I just loaded up Blender and I just took a flat plane and just sort of like scooshed up some hills to make it look a little bit more interesting, and then some beautiful graphics over here for our, let's get a perspective mode, there we go, for our enemy. Now, which end should be forward on this enemy? Originally, when I was designing, I was going to make like the double prong be the forward end, but now I'm wondering if it should be this that's the forward end, and these like almost like the little engine or something. I don't know. Which end should go forward? I'm not sure about that. And then I've got our tower over here. Ooh, fancy schmancy. Other than that, so brought them into the Unity project here, and we haven't done any programming yet. We're going to be starting, other than the fact that I had a couple of graphics set up ahead of time, it's going to be starting completely from scratch, and I'm hoping that within an hour, I got the timer going there. I got about 4 minutes before I'm going to be starting. That will have a tower defense game, or at least, you know, the shell of one, that then you guys will be able to grab these files. It'll be over at quill18.com/ I think it's Unity_tutorials. Just go to quill18.com. There's a link on the front page there where you can get all my Unity tutorials and all the downloads. So you'll be able to download it yourself and do some work with it. This video will also be up on YouTube afterwards. So make it go sideways. Oh, that's good. The tip goes first. I think the prongs, double forward, flat end, double prong, flat end forward, pointy end forward. Oh my god, it's like 50-50 which end should be forward here. Scave Rat! I didn't get a little bloop there. That was weird. Did I just drop the volume down? Scave Rat with the 12-month resub. Thank you very much. Those are some thrusters. Yeah, I think we're going to do like the pointy end forward. I think we're going to do that. I think if I designed it differently. Anyway, it's all moot. Scala JS, thank you very much for subscribing. So, we are going to do things, because it's a relatively simple programming project, we're going to do things mostly in the most Unity way possible, which is my term for doing things like purely with game objects, with components, and with, you know, like maybe colliders or something like that. Actually, we're not going to need any colliders whatsoever for this. You might want to use triggers on your towers to simplify some of the range checks, but even then, no. I don't think there's any need for that. The only time you might use something like colliders and rigid bodies in this are maybe for like explosion effects, right? When you blow something up, maybe then it becomes a physics-enabled object, so it sort of like explodes in little bits, and then you have like the bits roll on the ground. But other than that, we don't need anything like that. It's super simple to make. You too can make a tower defense game. 3 minutes of intro left, and then I get going. See what we can do. Sublab 3018, thank you very much for the sub. I will say, once I start programming, I may not be able to address things quite as frequently here. Hey, Swamp Hopper, because I'm going to try to go fast. I'm going to try to, as always, verbalize all the things that I'm doing and thinking, but it's going to be, like I say, you know, like there's speed runs for video games. This is going to be speed programming as much as possible. Swamp Hopper, good name, and a year sub. Wow. Googly eyes. Oh, wait, let's put some googly eyes on the front. I got time. Hold on. I got time to add googly eyes because we're still in 2-minute prep time. How do we add googly eyes to this real fast? Let's go into edit mode. Let's add I guess a sphere of some kind. Shrink it down. Bring it forward. And then up. and then forward. And then we want to, I guess it'd be easier if I was in a mirrored mode, wouldn't it? Bring it over here, but I don't have split down the middle. Hold on, I can do that though. Do this, then grab, go into wireframe mode. Oh, we got a tip, first tip of the day. Thank you very much. Let me grab half of this. Let me delete that. We're almost ready to start. We got time. And then add a mirror and then pull that up to the top. There we go. Now it looks like a bug. And then probably smooth shade this. There we go. So that's the front. It's got kind of eyes. We could add texture to it at some point in the future. And there we are. I don't like it. I don't like it. Sorry. We'll just go as is. It'll be up to you guys to come up with some good visuals later on when you turn this into your own tower defense game. Truncate Table, thank you very much for the sub. Love the name. Little Bobby Tables, we call you. And who just sent in a tip? Kessler! Quick question before the programming starts. We got 49 seconds. Do you ever plan to play with JFD's Cities and Development Rights, Power Gameplay, and Mercenaries mod for Civ 5? Maybe. I don't know. I do like mods for Civ 5 from time to time, so we'll keep it in mind. All right. Are we ready? 30 seconds. I'm going to try to see how much we can do in 1 hour. We're going to have enemies that spawn, follow a path, turrets that target the nearest enemy, that shoot. We're going to try to include 2 different types of turrets. We're going to try to include a basic sort of building UI so that we can build turrets around the place. Some sort of money thing where when the enemy dies, you get money, and then if they, a certain amount of lives, if they reach the end of the path, then you lose a life. Does that sound good? Let's see what we can do. All right, 5 seconds. We're going to start off by programming the enemy. So the enemy script over here, we're going to create a new script for the enemy. Boop. I'm just going to call it enemy, which is going to be great. Actually, before I do that, I'm actually first going to set up the pathing. So I'm going to create an empty over here. This is going to be the path that the enemies are going to follow. I'm just going to go ahead and bring this to the origin, which is always a good idea in general. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a 3D object that you can see for now, just because it's going to be easy to visualize. We'll make just like a little bit of a sphere over here. And then if I can find you, there you are, right over there, we're going to create a path. So it's going to start off over here. Now, I'm going to ignore elevation, but I'm still going to try to bring it sort of like roughly to the surface over there because the enemies are just going to be moving along a flat path. And oops, before I go and duplicate a bunch, let me create something like path node over here. Boom. All right. So over here, we are going to duplicate that, and I'm just going to go ahead and put in a string of game objects here, which is going to describe the path that the enemies are going to follow. Now, this is not going to be visible later on, but it's just easy to have a visual object for now. So there we go. So that's the enemy path over there, and they all have a script on there called path node, which I'm going to be awesome and happy with. So the enemy is going to do this. When it creates, where's my enemy script? Did I not put, oh, that's the object. Right, so there's an empty game object, and under it is my actual mesh/model. It makes it really easy to swap out the graphics later on. And also, you can see my enemy actually scaled it down. It was too big when I brought it into the game. But then your base object is not scaled, which is great. All right, let's open our enemy script. Boom! Remove the collider. We're going to get rid of the collider and the visuals and all those things later on. No problem whatsoever. Hey, we got another donation from Kickstarter Dave. I made the first standalone TD back in 2007. Flash Elements TD was very similar to the one you're trying to make now. Been looking forward to the stream. Best of luck. Thank you very much. There's actually 2 styles of tower defense games out there. There's the ones with the sort of predefined path like this, and then the ones with the sort of a grid and you put down buildings on it. Desktop Tower Defense is a great example of that. And personally, that second one's sort of my favorite, but it would take a little bit longer to do. And these are the most common ones where you can design pre-maps ahead of time and then follow the paths. Anyway. Enough of that little divergence. Enemy! All right, so when the enemy starts, what it's going to do is it's going to find the path. So we got path game object. Actually, we'll keep a reference to it. It's going to be like that. Some of these things are not necessarily the fastest or most optimal, but they're going to be fast and blend. So we're going to find an object called path. Path like that. Boom. We're going to put it in there, and then we are going to have a transform. Actually, we're going to have a target path node. We're going to have that, and we're going to have an int path node index, which is going to start off as 0. I'm going to get next path node So it's going to get this, and what it's going to do, it's going to say target path node is equal to path game object dot transform dot get child at path node index, like that, and then we'll increment path node index like that. So we're going to get the first child. The first child, of course, is 0. The 0th child is first in programming. So we're going to get that. Okay, now in update, if target path node is equal to null, then we're going to get next path node. If target path node is still equal to null, we've run out of path. Then we call void enemy, or we call reached goal, which right now is just going to destroy our game object. So when we run out of path, we self-destruct. Wow, and then we take away a player life. But we're going to do that later on. So otherwise, if at this point we have a path, what we're going to do is we're going to move towards the path. We're going to need some sort of speed variable. Public speed, public float speed equals, I don't know, 5. We'll do something like that to start off with. Actually, to make it easier right now, I'm not going to do a public. We'll make it public later on, but for now that's going to be fine. And so what we want is a vector 3 called direction, which is the is going to be our, what's it called? Target path node dot position minus r transform dot position is going to be the direction to our target. We are going to set the length of this, or if dir dot magnitude is actually float dist this frame is equal to speed times time dot delta time. If direction dot magnitude is less than or equal to the distance of this frame, then we reached the node. So set target node to be null. That way on the next update, it's going to resync all that. Else, move towards node. I gotta go too fast. I can't spell anymore. So we know the direction that we're going in. So we want to set the actual movement is going to be translate transform dot translate in the direction of this direction, but we want to normalize it times the distance that we're actually traveling this frame. Yeah, because then we have an actual direction as opposed to a difference vector. So we're going to move towards the node. We're not currently rotating, but we can do that. Quaternion.look rotation. We're going to look towards... this is a direction, right? Yeah, so we just need to give it the direction that we're doing in. So we say this dot transform dot rotation is equal that way. That way we should look in the direction that we are moving. We are also on this thing going to have some sort of public health, which is going to start off at like one hit point. Let's see if that works. We got syntax errors. Excellent. There's going to be a lot of that. Oh. Why is that? That one. That's the one I want. Okay, good. Let me move you closer to the start over here. And if we hit play... Oh, it's going to maximize on play. Oh, don't do that. It takes so long in the first launch all the time. Stop. Not maximize. Play. Hokidoke! That's fine. Why is the rotation all fucky? No, really. I mean, it's successfully moving from point to point, which is great. Why is the rotation all funky? Oh, I know why. Because translate does it by local by default. We want to do space dot relative to world space. That's why. Because otherwise, as the rotation changes, the transform by default does not what we want. Okay, great. We are currently going prong first. You know what, guys? We're going prong first just because that's it. I could just flip the graphic around, but this looks pretty cool. Okay, I don't like the fact that it instantly changes its rotation. So what we want instead is we want a quaternion dot target rotation is going to be that. And then our actual rotation is going to be a quaternion dot lerp from our current rotation to the target rotation. And we're just going to give it time.delta time, so it just eases from one to the other. Technically, it won't ever reach the final rotation, but it'll look pretty damn good. Okay, we do want it to rotate a little faster than that. So times 5. So that way it'll ease in. It'll start rotating quite quickly. It won't rotate smoothly. I mean, I suppose I could change it. There we go. So that looks pretty good. And you could add in more points if we wanted to smooth out. There's lots of things we could do to smooth out. Here, let's put in to do. Consider ways to smooth this motion. I'll leave that as an exercise to the viewer. Okay, we now have a moving enemy. Awesome. Let's get the turret to track the closest enemy. So our tower, rather I should say, our tower is going to have a script on it called tower. Boop, boop, boom. So there's a bunch of different ways to look at all enemies. What we are going to do, for now, every single frame, this is shitty, to do, optimize this. We're going to do enemies equals game object dot find objects of types, objects of type enemy. So this will return a list of all the enemies in the game. Nearest enemy is equal to null, and float dist is equal to mathf dot infinity, and we're going to find the closest enemy. For each enemy e in enemies, if nearest is equal to null, or, well, I guess it doesn't actually matter, because float dist, or d is equal to vector3 dot distance from this transform position to the enemy dot transform dot position. So that is the distance between our targets. But if it's null or d is less than distance, then nearest enemy is equal to e and dist is equal to d. If nearest enemy is equal to null, debug.log no enemies, which can happen, of course, and then we return. But otherwise, what we do is we're going to start off by rotating the turret part of the tower. So the tower over here has got 2 bits. It's got a base. I'm all about that base. And then it's got a turret bit. And first thing we want to do is rotate the turret to point at the enemy, because that'll look cool. So what we need is we need to know what our turret is. So we're going to do a transform turret transform. So on start, we're going to say transform dot find child. These are both the same thing. In fact, I think the non-deprecated one is just find, and this is going to find a child within ourselves called turret, and we're just going to set turret transform to be equal to that. If for some reason that comes out to be null, well then bad things will happen. Well, we'll just figure it out. We're not going to do too much debugging in this. We're on a timer. How much time do I got left? 47 minutes. This is going to be intense. Quaternion look rot is equal to quaternion dot look rotation, and so direction is equal to nearest enemy dot transform dot position minus this dot transform dot position. So we're going to get a rotation that is in the direction of that, and then we're going to rotate the turret. The turret transform dot rotation. We're going to set it to a new quaternion Well, I don't have to go new here because I'm going to use quaternion.Euler version of this, so I can give it Euler coordinates. And what's important is we're only going to be rotating around the y-axis because I don't want the turret to like tip and flip and do weird things there. So we're going to just grab this look rotate.y, and we're going to do that. So what should happen is every frame it should automatically point at the nearest enemy. Right now there's just one enemy. Check for syntax errors. Nothing. Let's hit play. And it doesn't work. Excellent. And no errors either? Oops. Let's see what it's doing on every single frame. It's got a thingy in there. It's setting it. Is this in radians or something? Should we set it to like 221? That last bit, which is not right. This one here. What's going on? This is definitely returning the right numbers in the debug. Lookrote.y is the one I want. Why does it come up with such a small number? The fuck? Hoping that's someone in the chat. Look, oh, thank you very much. I'm not using the Euler one. Thank you. I'm using the quaternion Y. Awesome. There we go. We are now locked on to the closest target. Technically, we relock on every single frame. We do a search every single frame. And you might want different behaviors, but for now, that is going to be a start. Awesome. Next thing we want to do is we want to set up a bullet of some kind. And so for that, we're going to go and I'm going to create a new 3D object. I'm just going to use a sphere right off. Although, again, you know what? Hell, let's do it right. We're going to create a empty game object called bullet. And then inside of that, I'm going to create a 3D object that's a sphere that is the graphic for it. And especially since that, again, makes it really easy for us to just scale and do various things and replace the graphics later on. And bring 0, 0, 0, and then bring it up to like 2 so we can see it. There you go. There's our bullet right over there. I'm going to add a script on this called bullet. And the bullet's actually going to be a pretty simple kind of dummy thing. Basically, what the bullet script is going to have is it's going to have a float called speed, which we're going to default to, I don't know, something quite peppy, 15. And it's going to have a public, say, transform, which is called target, which shouldn't be 0. And then every frame, it's just going to move towards the target. We can actually do a quick little copy and pasta here because we have this code we can basically steal from the enemy. We'll just call it this. We'll call it this. There's not a node here. We just, when we reach the target, do bullet hit. It's just going to be a function, which right now is just going to destroy our game object and remove it from contention. When we reach the target, we get there. And that's all its job is going to be. It is going to do a rotation because who knows, maybe we'll want a model that is pointy, like a bullet or a missile or something like that instead. So every frame, it's going to move towards the target. Meanwhile, the tower is going to have, over here, a behavior. It's going to have a float range of, I don't know, 10 to start off with. It's also going to have a public game object called bullet go, like this. This is going to point to a prefab. Actually, that's what it should literally be called, is bullet prefab. Prefab. Boom. So our tower over here is going to have a prefab of the bullet, and apply that to your own prefab over there, and it's going to have some sort of float fire cooldown. This is going to fire once every, I don't know, every half second. Float fire cooldown left, which is 0. So every frame, it's going to always point to the thing, and then if fire cooldown left is less than or equal to 0, we're going to do something, and actually before that, we're going to say minus equal time dot dot time. So we're going to count down there. We're going to reset the fire cooldown to what it's supposed to be, and then we are going to call, I don't know, shoot. Actually, we're going to call it shoot at, and it's going to take an enemy like this. So all we're going to do for this is we're going to bullet geo equals game object instantiate the bullet prefab. It's going to be at this.transform.position and this.transform.rotation to start off with. Actually, it should really fire out the tip. We're going to see if we can fix that later on. To do, fire out the tip. That's going to be pretty easy to fix, actually, but let's do the rest of the work here first. So bullet geo dot get component bullet. So there's a script for bullet b equals that. B dot target equals e dot transform. And that's all we're going to set in now. Actually, at this point, we're also going to... Hey, we got another tip from Sublab. Thank you for teaching me how to play Crusader Kings 2, Victoria 2, and Europa Universalis. Well, thank you very much, Sublab, for that tip. Boom. Set the target. Okay. I think now, if we run this bullet here, let me apply trash and pull up over here and back up a little bit and hit play. Oh, I don't check range yet, but there we go. The bullets are going. Pew, 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 pew. You know what? I think this should be a little bit bigger. They're a little bit hard to see. So we're just going to pop this open, go into the model for it, and just make it twice as big, like that. Okay, so there's that. Now that we've confirmed that the shooting works, then we say, so the cooldown goes, if it's less than 1, if it's less than 0, and direction.magnitude is less than or equal to our range. So we only actually fire if the target is within range at that point. There we have it. All right. That's good. Now we have to deal some damage. So our bullet will actually have a public, maybe we'll have floats. You know what? For hit points and everything, we'll have floats. Because it'll work better with scaling and things later on. So its health is just going to be 1 to start off with. And our bullet is just going to do 1 damage to start off with. Damage is equal to 1F. Damage. So what we do is GameObject.getComponent enemy. For some reason, we're not targeted an enemy. Bad things will happen, but that's okay. Dot health. Well, actually, not dot health. We're going to make a function over here. Public void take damage float damage health minus equals this. If health is less than or equal to 0, then die, which is going to be another function, which for now just destroys the game object. So now our bullet, damage, So we damage the enemy, and then the bullet sort of self-destructs. To do, what if it's an exploding bullet with an area of effect? I'm hoping we have time to put that in. 37 minutes to go. We got this shit. Oh. Dot take damage. There we are. Health is, whoops, that was a mistake. All right, good. What next? We point, we shoot, we do that. We don't place the towers yet. Let's go ahead and create a empty object here called scripts, which I very much like to do like that. For the sake of argument, I will also center it, but it doesn't really matter for this. And we'll say something like score manager over here and open this up. Bum, 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 bum. Did I open it? Come on, score manager. Come on. There it is. Okay, so we're gonna have a public int lives equals, I don't know, 20. Public int money equals, I don't know, 100. Mostly we're gonna have that. We'll have a, I don't know, let's have a public void loose life int L equals 1. We'll have a default to 1 so you don't have to specify it, but maybe something can make you lose more than 1 life. Lives minus equal L if lives less than or equal to 0. Then we'll make it public in case we want to call it from somewhere else. Game over. And then what we do is we, I don't know, debug.log game over, and then we do application dot oh yeah, it's not dot load level anymore. What is it? It's scene, oh shit, using Unity engine dot scene management, and scene manager dot load scene manager dot I get the current scene. Get active scene. Something like that. I just want to like reload the existing screen. To do, send the player to a game over screen instead. Boop. Okay. Ba-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Game over. Okay. So now, when an enemy dies, so an enemy will have a score. Public int money value. Enemies are worth $1 to start off with. So now, when an enemy dies, it grabs. We could probably do it as a. You know what? It's fine. We'll do it the dumb way. It's fine. Game object dot find object of type score manager dot money plus equals money value. Do this more safely. This is not safe. This is prone to potential failure. Not particularly slow because you're, because it's only going to happen once per enemy, but so there's that. And then if you reach the goal, then lose life. There we are. Scene manager. So if the enemy reaches the goal, we lose life. If we do that, then that. And then lose life is responsible for game overing us if something happens over there. Okay, now we're starting to get a little bit of a game. Next thing we want to do is build some more towers. And we have, so load scene has got a string. Or an int, I think. There we go. I'll have to screen that name. Yeah, there's probably a better way to do that, but that works just fine. Okay, so this should just reload the current scene so that you start back over. Let's get a little bit of a user interface going on. So, boom, boom. We're going to put this, I don't know, traditionally you would put this maybe in the top left corner. And how come I can't see it? Oh, because it is just very hard to see. Let's put in a little panel. Like that. Anchored to the top left corner. we'll just make it, I don't know, 100 by 50. Well, that's pretty small, actually. Also, the canvas, I want it to be, yeah, constant pixel size is fine for this. Text goes inside the panel, and we're going to make the panel just fully opaque. And then the text can be offset by, like that. Money. Ba-da-da-da-da-da. Lives. Well, it's going to start at 2 digits. Money's probably never going to get that high, but it's just to plan for the space. And then we're just going to pull you down some more to something around there, and then we will embiggen the panel width-wise to be like that. Although we could make it fit to content size fitter. Nah, you know what? No, just remove. It's fine. We're going to be groovy like that. We can go and thin that out a bit that way, and that's going to be fine. So here we're going to have money, text, lives, text, and then over here in the score manager, we'll just make it update every frame. To do, this doesn't actually need to update the text every frame. Actually, that's more of a fix me. But we're going to do it right now because it's easy and guaranteed to work okay. So we're going to have game object. Actually, text using Unity engine dot UI. So now we can do text, and we can have money text. This should be public. Public text, lives text, like that. And before I forget, I'm going to go and assign those now. So money, lives, okay. Money text dot text is equal to money, and lives text dot text there we go, is equal to lives. So now every frame that should be successfully updated, and except for the fact that we got an error. Oh, dot toString is fine. Dot toString is fine. Should have some background music. I just realized we've got nothing playing in the background, which is odd for me. So as soon as this comes within range, it doesn't die. First of all, I can get rid of this debug info. Don't need that anymore. I must be forgetting to assign something somewhere, which is why we're gonna. Okay, come on, compile already, so I can start interacting with you again. Is it something in the bullet code? Oh, I'm checking the wrong thing. It should be the... I'm looking for an enemy script on myself. It's the enemy script on the enemy transform, on the target transform. Pew! Excellent. And the money did go up. We are getting errors, probably because... our bullet, does it not? It should be destroyed at this point. Oh, because we had existing bullets that are still in the air and are still going to an enemy. So that's fine. If target, because we had more than one, is equal to null, our enemy went away. So we're just going to destroy ourselves and then return right away. But there we go. So we are working. It's because we had multiple bullets in the air, and then suddenly their target disappeared when it was killed by a previous bullet. All right, let's build a tower. So, the ability to build turrets. On this type of game, what you tend to have is predefined placement spots, which could be laid out in a variety of different ways. For our purposes here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to manually put one down to start off with. Let me go and make a cube right from the start. It'll greatly simplify things. I have some sort of cube here, which I'm now going to bring up so we can see it. There you go. And this is going to represent a place where you can put an object. Let's bring it Oh no, the Z has to be that, or the Z I should say, oh my god. And then thin this out, I guess. Nah, it doesn't really have to be. You know what, I do have to make this go inside something. How come, oh, this one, oh yeah, because of the scaling. Oh, that's funny. And then the cube, so 2, something like that. And then if this is the box collider, if I put a rigid body on here, does the on-click register here? I don't think so. I think we've had that problem before. I'm going to have to send it up, which makes me unhappy. That's okay. Tower spot, or something like that is what we're going to call it. Oh, tower spot. I want to call the object there. The script, I think, is going to belong on the cube, and the reason is the cube has the box collider. I could put the box collider very easily on the base bit and whatever, but I'm just going to be lazy for this. So we're going to create a component called tower spot, and this is what it's going to do. How are we doing? Unity on mouse. Bum ba bum 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 bum. So in here we're gonna have an on mouse up, I suppose. Debug dot tower spot clicked, and we're gonna make sure that that works. It should work. Now, a lot of times I'm a fan of using a, oops, this window. There we go. So we can now click these tower spots. And then what we want is some sort of, we need a script called building manager. Which is going to have a public game object, prefab, or selected tower, like that. And I'm going to start by pre-populating it. There we go. So I'm going to grab our default tower and drop it in there. But we're going to have a UI that controls what the currently activated tower is. But then our tower spot, on a click, we're going to get, we're going to copy the building manager. BM is equal to game object dot find object of type building manager. Then if bm dot selected tower is not null, then what we do is we instantiate the selected tower, bm dot selected tower. We instantiate it where our parent is, because we're a child thing. This is a bit of a hard coding thing that we will want to avoid later on. But position, and the rotation should just be set to the identity. No, actually, that's not true. It should still copy the parent rotation, because it's possible that we'll have some of these like little placeholder spots, the little bits where you can build, that might be tilted. They might be set up to follow the curve of the map or something like that. So we're going to instantiate the object where our parent is, and then we are going to destroy transform.parent.gameObject. Fix me. Right now we assume that we're an object nested in a parent. That might not always be the case. That's just what we're pulling off right now. Okay. Do that, I think. Let's find out. If I were to click here, do I get a tower? Oh, I double-clicked on the play icon. Boom! Now we have another turret. And they're both tracking the enemy. And this one didn't get in range, but it would have fired. Sweet! Okay, this tower here, I'll apply, make sure everything is there. I'm going to get rid of it, because we don't want that anymore. Now we just want these tower spots. And then duplicate sub. Hey, Conme, thank you very much for the sub. I'm gonna grab that, grab these guys. Did I not grab 3? Oh, oops. Hang on. I have one too many there. There we go. Duplicate. Duplicate. So this is the type of tower defense game where it is like a handmade map where everything is laid out. So we've got that, but what we can do, right, if I grab one of these and bring it here, like there's no reason I couldn't say decide to put it here and then angle it and then duplicate it and then go back to transform mode in local mode like this, right? And then start moving things in this direction because that's quite cool. And so on and so forth. I'm not going to populate the whole map, but we're going to start it with this. And so now if I hit play, boop, 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 we get a bunch of turrets down. Excellent. Now, right now, they don't cost any money. We should probably do something about that. All right, tower. Let's put in a public int cost. We're going to have them start off at like, I don't know, 20 bucks or something like that. That's probably too much. Let's make it 5. So killing 5 enemies is what you need to build a new tower. And also, let's make keep this cleaner. Make a tower spots. Empty object. Grab all these tower spots and put them in there. And then just collapse that down to keep things nice and organized. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, the scripts. So let's make you start off with, I don't know, like 20 money. So you can build 4 things right from the start. So we got 20 monies. And then when we go on a tower spot and we go to build, we're going to check something. So we're going to get score manager, SM, is equal to, who dat? Degenerate, thank you very much for the resub. Game object dot find object of type score manager. If score manager dot money is less than the bm dot selected tower dot cost dot selected tower dot get component tower dot cost. This is going to read it from the prefab, but that works just fine. Drefon, thank you very much for the resub. If we don't have enough money, then we just return right away. Debug.log, not enough money. Otherwise, we bring that down. So money minus equal the cost of the tower, and then we build it. So now let's hit play and see what happens. Yay, the money's going down. And then we're broken and we can't build anymore. Awesome, and we got our buck from the enemy. What I do have to change is over here, we need to change this to money. Plus that, okay, well, let's put in a dollar sign. And then a lives. Like that. There we are, so that the labeling starts to look a little bit better. Okay, we have enemies that take away lives, that are worth points. We've got towers that you spend money to go down. Well, tower singular. How much time we got left? 18 minutes. Shit. Okay. What people really care about? They will care about a second tower the most. So let's go ahead and duplicate that. We're gonna have tower 2. This is gonna be tower explodey. That's what it's gonna be called. Very excellent. And did I not lock in the name change? It's there. Why does it still say tower 1 here? Oh. It's actually, like, not taking it. I don't know, rename it here. Tower Explodey. There we are. Right, I guess because it wouldn't rename the file. Seems kind of odd. Okay, so what are we going to change over here? First things first. In the tower code, we are going to say that the bullet... So it's in here that we're actually going to set public float damage and public float radius, which is going to normally have a radius of 0, and we're going to feed that into the bullet. When we spawn the bullet, we are going to say b dot damage is going to be the damage taken from the tower, and b, we're going to set up a radius. Public float radius will have a default to 0, which is fine. Dot radius is equal to the radius's stats. So it's just going to spawn something. It's going to set all the values over here. So when we reach the target, we do a bullet hit, which is going to be over here. But if radius is equal to 0, then we just hit the enemy directly. else, what we do is, from our current position, we've got to do, we need to use the physics dot sphere cast? No. Overlap sphere. That's the one I'm looking for. Overlap sphere. Based on our current position, transform dot position, and with our radius. And what this will do is it will return a list of colliders that we have collided with. So for each collider, C in coals, whoops, enemy E equals C dot get component enemy. If E not equals null, then we apply the damage. To do. You could do a fall off of damage based on distance, but that's rare for TD games. So then everything within the radius will now take damage, and then the bullet still self-destructs. Okay, let's go. Oh, we have to do the enemy spawning at some point. Not that that's very complicated, but we don't have much time. Let me grab my enemies over here. Boop, 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 boop. Sound effects make everything better. I don't care what you say. And then what we're going to do is on our script in our building manager, we're going to have it default to the tower explodey. And tower explodey is going to have a radius of, I don't know, 5, which is a big, ridiculous radius. But then if we hit play and I build a tower explodey over here, when the bullet goes off, enemies, what you got? You have no colliders or anything like that, so we should do something about that. You, over here, we're going to add a component. We're going to have a sphere collider around you. I think we'll also want, I don't think it's important for this, but in practice, this is a kinematic rigid body. I'm going to apply you to the prefab, which should copy it to everyone else as well. Excellent. So now if we hit play, you should now actually have colliders that we're checking for. You know what would help? Actually, there we go. Hey, we got exploded. Like that, they all died. Boo! Okay. To do. Maybe spawn a cool explosion object here. That would be a good one. Okay. Let's make a spawner of some kind, some sort of generic spawner. Oh, actually, before we do that, let's create a quick little UI pair of elements of boutons, because our building manager, we want to go public void set or select tower type prefab like this, and we're going to set selected tower is equal to prefab. This gives us a way to change what our selected tower is. And then in our user interface over here, we're going to create a bouton right over there, which is going to have a new label. First of all, I'll put you in the bottom left corner, which I think is a great spot for it. You're going to say normal, let's call it sniper tower. Sniper tower, like this. And you're going to have a behavior that on click, you are going to send a message to the script object, specifically the building manager script, and specifically even more the select tower type, which takes a parameter, and this sets that. And then we go and create a second button, and we just move it over here. And this one is going to be called the explodey tower. And it's going to be the same thing, and it's going to send tower explodey. And to make them look different, let's go and just drop an explodey tower in here. And what I'm going to do is you have a material over here. We're going to create a new material called explodey tower, and it's going to be red. And the explodey tower, which is where in here? Right here, tower explodey, is going to have a red base. So it's going to use this material instead. I guess I can just drop it there. Excellent. Apply and get out. Hit play. We don't move the camera yet, although we've covered that in about 1 billion different times. There we go. We got normal sniper towers, and then we've got explodey towers over here. Ta-da! They are not, I believe. I don't know. They look like they're more elevated. Oh, no, they're not actually lined up properly. Shit, the subcubes are all foobarred. All the cubes that are inside of here, I didn't set them. I was sloppy when I created them. I forgot to center them. That's why, like, centering this stuff, always good to keep doing that. We're gonna grab all these cubes and just center them properly, like that. There we go. And now technically the things aren't quite where I had them before, but that should be okay. So now it should look like the towers go properly. So explodey towers, sniper towers. There we go. That all looks excellent. We can make the explodey towers a little more expensive, maybe. Tower explodey. You cost 10. There we go. Oh, I hadn't made the range public on these. I should really do that. Range public. And in fact, then what I'm going to do is get the sniper tower, which I will rename to sniper tower. I will give you a range of maybe 15. So you got bigger range. The other one explodes, does radius damage. How much time do I have left? 10 minutes? What the hell am I going to do in 10 minutes? We've got a million times. Let's go ahead and make a spawn spot, shall we? Enemy spawner. So we're going to just bring all this down to 0, although we're going to move it. It's mostly just the Y I had to bring it to 0. So we are going to put the enemy spawner right over here. And then I still have an enemy out there. Let's get rid of you. Enemy spawner script. Who dat? Raziel! Thank you very much for the sub. I told you to program this would be easy. So what we want for this is something like maybe an array of game objects. Make it public game object array of enemies. You know what we want? We want something different. We want a public wave component or some damn thing like this, which is going to have a public game object enemy prefab and a public class int num, and then we're going to have is a public wave component array of wave comps like this, but I think I also have to do something like system.serializable. So if we do this, that means we get a really cool structure over here in our inspector. We can say, listen, I want this wave, especially when I have 2 enemies. Here, let's make an enemy, 2 enemies. We've got enemy, normal, and then we have a red one. So I'm going to duplicate this prefab. This is going to be enemy dash, oh, I'm renaming the wrong thing again. This is enemy dash normal, and this one here is enemy dot elite. We'll get the elite one over here, grab the model, get the materials. We're just going to give it the red skin over here. And the elite enemy will have 10 hit points. It's going to be a lot stronger, but it's going to be worth like 25 monies. Okay. So now our enemy spawner over here, we can say, listen, our wave, we want it to be, it's going to have 2 elements to it. Element 1 is going to be the normal enemy, and we're going to spawn 10 of those. And element 2 is going to be the elite enemy, and we're going to spawn just 1 of those like that. And then for the enemy spawner, we'll put some sort of like float time between, or spawn cooldown. I should really just use CD. I should really use some of that, yeah? Spawn cooldown, we're going to start at 0. No, this is going to be the time between spawning each enemy. And then float spawn CD remaining, which is 0. So, and then, you know what, we'll have another public in here, int spawned, which certainly defaults to 0, although I don't have to put that in there, and really we're not going to set it. It's actually non-serialized. System.non-serialized. So that way it won't show up in the inspector because it doesn't make sense. So, we're going to take the spawn cooldown remaining, we're going to bring it down. Money school time.delta time. If spawn is less than 0, then it means it's time to spawn something. We're going to reset this to be spawn cooldown. And then what we're going to do is go through the wave comps until we find something to spawn. And actually, what I'm going to do is make the spawn a little bit more interesting. Because what I'm actually going to say is 3 components. Put another normal enemy in there. I'm going to say spawn 5 normal enemies, then an elite, then 5 more normal enemies. That's going to be the wave composition over here. Note that the spawn here does not show up in the inspector. Very cool little things like this. This is not even like the really crazy inspector stuff that you can do. So for each wave component, WC in wave comps, if spawned is less than num, derp derp, wavecomp.spawned is less than wavecomp.num, then spawn it. And then we break out of the for each loop. And we'll have a little thing here. Bool did spawn equals false, equals true. If we get out of the loop over here, if is equal to false, wave must be complete. To do spawn next wave, or instantiate next wave object, something like that. But for now, we're just going to say destroy. How much time do I have left? 5 minutes. Game object. Boom. There we go. So spawn it. Well, we know how to spawn things. It's pretty easy. You instantiate the enemy prefab from this wave comp. You set it to this.transform.position. You don't have to use this. I just use it because it helps me remember which transform I'm talking about. Transform.rotation. Yeah, I guess is fine, although, you know what would be nice for that then, is if we made sure that our spawner over here was rotated in such a way that it starts off facing the target. That way things will spawn in roughly the correct orientation. So we just spawn it and then forget it, and that's fine. Did spawn equal true, then we break. Let's see what happens if we hit play. We got no enemies in play right now. Parsing error? Is that still there? Parsing error. What have I done? I must be missing. I am. Oop. A curly brace. There we are. Hit play. All right. That cooldown timer is. Oh. Couple of things. So the cooldown timer is a bit short. I want to change that. But also, when we spawn it, we have to make sure that we increase our spawn count so that things actually advance. But also, I'm going to go and extend this to like a quarter of a second between. Although that's something you could tune. There you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, followed by the elite one, followed by 5 more, and then it stops spawning. And if we go ahead, you can see the elite one takes some extra damage to kill. And he's worth more. Whoopah! So the way you would want to set up the spawner, like getting the next one, is you want some sort of spawn manager, right? That loops through the spawns one at a time, activating them. Actually, that might be the easiest way to do it, is do something like create empty, enemy spawners, something like that. Put this guy inside. I'll technically create a prefab. Although, no, really, I won't, actually, because they're always going to be different. It's just going to be an empty object with that. Let's make sure, hold on, if I put this out, make sure that the parent one is centered. Oh, the other thing I meant to talk about is what if you had multiple paths? Well, that's really easy. You just have more than one of these path things, and you have your enemies pick one at random or do something like that. So you could have multiple paths really easily. You could have multiple spawn spots really easily by just messing with this sort of stuff, basically, right? But let's say we had another wave here that was just going to be, this is going to be a brutal wave. It's a wave of 1, but it only uses the elite enemies, and then it spawns 5 of them in a row. So enemy spawner 2, and then what we do is like disable this one, for example, right? So instead of, so we destroy ourselves. Well, before we do that, we just activate the next child. So our transform dot parent dot get child at index 1. So 0 is always the first. So 1 is always going to be the second child. We're the first child. So we're going to grab the second child, which is here. But then once we destroy ourselves, we'll no longer be the next child. Alternatively, what we could do is we could go transform.setParent to null, enabling me to make my favorite joke ever, become Batman. Which means that we are no longer, well, I guess we have to do that after. Yeah, no, we'll do this. So we always activate the second child. So this dot GameObject dot set active to true. So we make the next child active, and then we destroy ourselves. And this will always be the case that the next one will be there. And we could test that by making another copy of this version and deactivating it. So now I think what will happen, if I hit play, it should spit out 5 plus 1 plus 5. Then it's going to spit out 5 of those. Then it's going to do another wave, and then we'll actually be out of stuff, which will actually result in an error in the end. If transform the parent dot child count is greater than 1, it's got more than one child, do that. Else, that was the last wave. What do we want to do? Well, here's an idea. Instead, what if instead of destroying wave objects, we just made them inactive, and then when we run out of waves, we restart at the first one, but double all enemy HPs or something. And that's our time! What we didn't cover is tower upgrades. Unfortunately, I wanted to do that. Tell you what, let's take an extra 3 minutes to do a tower upgrade. Are you ready? Okay. I'm not sure we can do it, because we'd have to do context thing. It'll only take a little bit more than that. But basically, for tower upgrades, what you would do is you would have some sort of manager, a tower upgrade manager like this. When you clicked on the tower, the tower would tell the tower manager, oh, I was just clicked on. I'm the activated tower. And then the tower manager could open up a little bit of window here to show you the stats about this tower. It'd say, you know, tower explodey. It would show you your current damage, your range, your cooldown, and maybe you could have a button next to each one of those to spend money to boost your damage, your range, your cooldown, your radius, or some damn thing like that. Really, really, really easy thing to do. It's not hard. Like, you just create a little UI element. I'll mock it up. We won't do it for reals here because I'm out of time and it wouldn't be right. But a UI, you can make a new panel down here. Panel. And just lock it down to the bottom left corner. And bring its size down to, like, I don't know, 200 by 300. You know, there's your panel. Put in some text and stuff over here. Normally it would be hidden. And yeah, just on your tower itself. Our towers currently don't currently have collision boxes. But what you would do is you would add a collider, probably like a box collider, and oh, that's kind of annoying. It's not. I was assuming that it would auto set it to like vaguely the right sort of size and shape, right? But do something like this. The other thing you could do is you could have a mouse manager, which is what we use in some games. But there we go. So now it's got a collider, which means you could add a script to this tower for on mouse down or on mouse up, and on mouse down or up. You know, basically when it's clicked, it will just activate this side panel, tell it, hey, I'm the one that's selected, and then the side panel you have some buttons that all it does, because our combat stats are based on the tower here, right? The combat stats are set up here. So the panel just changes these numbers. And then when a bullet spawns, it'll be spawned with new stats. Easy. Go make tower defense games. I want more programmers out there, more people making awesome video games. These files will be available on my website, quill18.com, relatively shortly. And if you missed any of this, the videos will be up on YouTube relatively soon. So I hope you enjoyed this. We didn't do the camera movement thing because I've done that about a million trillion times in all of my tutorials, and it's like, it's easy to do. Plus, you might want different ways of having the camera movement down. But, you know, other than that, it does work. Let me clean that up. And I think we're good. I guess the one thing we didn't do, also, you might want a little bit of cooldown before the next wave starts. So in your enemy spawner here, you might want your cooldown remaining to like start at something like 5 seconds. That way it's always 5 seconds before the first enemy spawns, and it also gives you 5 seconds between waves. Easy. So now if you played it, I'm cheating. I've gone beyond the time. Shh, don't tell anyone. Now if you play it, so it takes 5 seconds, then it starts spawning. And then after this wave ends, 5 seconds will go by again and do that. And obviously you can have more UI elements that, you know, read these countdown timers that could all be updated and all those sorts of things. But look at that. Lovely game. Oh, let's make sure the lives actually go away. When this reaches the end, it should... Oh, it don't. It don't. Why? Oh, because that actually returns an error. Okay. I thought we'd check to see if it was null, but this actually returns an error. So if node is less than, let's make sure there's no error in the code that I supply to you guys, is less than child count, then we do this. Else, it's really, this is when reach goal will trigger. And we'll make sure that the node gets set to null so that nothing weird happens. Okay, that should get rid of that error. Let's just give it another run. I'm actually curious to see what happens when we hit the game over. This is beta testing. We'll make sure we lose some lives. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take a short 2-minute break. When we come back, we're going to be playing a game. We're going to be playing a game called Gear City. We're going to be trying this. It's a pretty, it looks like a pretty complicated, pretty detailed. There we go. We're losing lives. Excellent. Wow. Lots of shit just went wrong there. I'll left that as an exercise to the viewer. Fix me. This returns an error when enemies die or reach their goal? Question mark. There you go. Oh, it's because we don't return here. I fixed it. All right, I'm done. We're taking a short break. We're going to play some Gear City. If it turns out to not be fun, I got another game ready to go after that one as a backup. And then, of course, there'll also be the subscriber multiplayer at the end of it. But I want to send a special thank you to all the people who support the Quill18 Creates Patreon channel, or, well, the YouTube channel, Quill18 Creates YouTube channel, which is supported via Patreon. You can find it at patreon.com/Quill18Creates. We are currently making a base building game over there. We're on, like, I think I've got part 23 coming out on Tuesday, which finishes all of our pathfinding for our little people that go around and build walls and things like that. It's really exciting. I'm really loving the community over there. Thank you so much for making that happen. And we'll be right back with some video games. See you in a bit. Thank you very much to all our January supporters over at patreon.com/Quill18Creates and these mic check supporters. We've got Alexander Gutler, Andre Odendal, Neil Blakely Milner, Speedy Savant, Valiant Cake Fiend, Aaron Toyson, Marius Field Vold, Disco Geek, Ole Peter Talgo, Julian Auger Lafont, or Auger Lafont, I should say, Steven Stagger, Michael McClintock, Kale the Quick, Drazion, Wes Oldenbeving, Craig Mortel, Nail or Nale, I don't know, Vikstrom, and Andrew Henninger, and everyone who has watched, shared, favorited, and subscribed to these videos, and left comments as well. You guys really keep things going. Thank you very much for watching.